Hey, what's happening? Welcome to Mates TV. I am Mate. I'm going to be talking about the Premier League Hall of Fame. The two people I think should absolutely nailed on be the first two people to go in. The nomination process that's going to follow, why I think that's a little bit flawed. And of course, the Liverpool players from the Premier League era who I think unequivocally deserve to be in there. And maybe one or two who don't, but I'd like in there anyway. But first, I want to draw your attention to the fact that I now have a Patreon. A few of you will have seen, put a few posts out here and there, but it's here, it's a thing. It allows me to make more content. It allows you to support what I do on this channel. So if you enjoy what I do on this channel, whether it's the talking stuff or the podcasts or the vlogs or what have you, and you want to become a patron of the Mate brand, whatever you want to call it, you can do patreon.com/mate. I've just done a Q&A with the patrons over on there, the first 11 guys over there, the starting 11. Do you want to be on the subs bench of our awesome team? Do you want to be in the wider squad? Join up, get involved. Have a little bit more interaction behind the scenes stuff. It's been very, very good fun thus far, and I hope you can become a member too. But if not, whatever, plenty of free stuff on YouTube as always. But know that I won't love you as much as the people who are on Patreon. So anyway, the Hall of Fame. So it's been said that there's going to be two guys who are going straight in when it's launched in March. For me, I think it's a pretty simple decision. I think those two players should be Alan Shearer, and I think they should be Ryan Giggs. And the Shearer thing, I think it's pretty self-evident because, of course, he holds the record for goals scored in the Premier League, the best. He's just the best centre forward the Premier League's ever had. And I know there might be one or two of you who are maybe just slightly getting your backs up over that, and you're going to list a number of players. There's been some great centre forwards in the Premier League. It's the best league in the world, and it's got some of the best clubs, and it's had some of the best sides within those clubs over the last 30 years. So inevitably, there's tons of people who are going to be up for this discussion. But for me, Alan Shearer, I don't think anyone's ever going to surpass that record. And if they do, they'll be absolutely next level. No one crap is going to break Shearer's record. It's as simple as that. So I think Shearer has to go in. And ultimately, because I think goals are so vital to football, and they're the thing that draw in attention. They're the things that, as much as there will be plenty of defenders, I think, who make it in there over time, when you talk about the formative years of the Premier League, Alan Shearer was there coming through. Obviously, he was at Southampton, going into Blackburn, wins the league with Blackburn, and then obviously carries on through the 90s into the noughties with Newcastle, an absolute goal machine. And he was there throughout that period where the Premier League was just a rebranding of the English First Division to it being this global mega brand. And I think he's a big part of that. The other one, and it's not quite for the same reasons, I'm going to go with, of course, Ryan Giggs. There's a strong case to go with someone like David Beckham, for example, because I think his brand, he is a global icon, and he is inexorably linked with Manchester United, with the Premier League, with being English. I think Beckham will absolutely end up in the Hall of Fame. But I've gone with Giggs because of a number of reasons. I asked on Twitter what people thought should be the criteria for this, whether it was silverware or records or longevity or, their global brand and standing within the game. And Ryan Giggs, I don't think he had maybe the razzmatazz that came with David Beckham. He very nearly did. There was a point where in his early days of his career, when he was in all the adverts and he was seen as like this pin-up icon, which is mad to think of it when you see him now, because he just looks like a weird half-haired goblin. But he was like the sex icon. He was, the superstar winger with the curly hair and all this kind of stuff. But ultimately what he was, aside from being a fella who shagged his brother's wife, which will, let's just park that. We'll park that to one side for the moment, just to focus on his Premier League deeds. Look, he played till he was like 37, from 16, 17, breaking through at Manchester United, won everything there is to win, multiple times in some instances. Phenomenal football. I've seen people talk about like Gary Speed. I think Gary Speed will be in the conversation. I think Gareth Barry deserves to be in the conversation as well. Again, in terms of the longevity they've had of their careers at the very top level and what they've done during that time. But Giggs has done that, plus added all the the bells and whistles and trinkets along the way as well. So I think they should fucking riot. Them two should riot if they don't get straight into the Hall of Fame. The follow-up stage is obviously this. They're going to put a load of nominations out, and then apparently it's going to go to a fan vote, which I think is a bit weird. I'm not behind this idea, because I think what will happen there is it will skew the voting, because inevitably, look, tons of Man United players are going to get in this, and they should, because Manchester United have been the team of the Premier League. You know, Arsenal have had some great times in there, Chelsea have had some great times in there, and I think Liverpool are due to have some great times in there in the coming years. But Man United, without a doubt, the team of the Premier League. So they're always going to have players. So the fan vote won't be too much disparity in that. But I think what you'll find is you might find Liverpool players maybe who don't fully deserve to be in there. You might find Arsenal players who don't fully deserve to be in there. I think what it might do is and I don't want it to, close the door on Premier League legends who didn't play for the big teams. This shouldn't just be a vindication for, yeah, you played in the Premier League, you might have done all these appearances, you might have done all these things, but if you did it for Southampton, Matt Le Tissier, then unfortunately you've got no chance. Whereas for me, the era of Premier League I grew up watching, Matt Le Tissier was an icon of that league. He absolutely was. And I think he's one of those kind of players who deserves to go in. If you leave it to a fan vote, I'm not sure he will ever get in, because inevitably there's going to be someone else on the poll with whom that has a bigger status in the game, or again, has a bigger associated fan base. Again, the Liverpool thing, Peter Crouch winning polls, spares polls, because Liverpool fans just got a grip on it. Mo Salah wins every poll ever, because he's not just got Liverpool fans, but he's got Egyptians, he's got Muslims on his side. It's not about, I think when you leave it open to fans, I think the fans should be nominating, but I think a panel should be choosing, because there's plenty of players who I think should be on there, and I think there's a list, and I'd be interested to know your thoughts on who you think are the nailed on players who deserve to be. And I think the names kind of roll off the tongue. When I wrote my list down, I might well have said Shearer and Giggs should be nailed on and go in the first two, but I wrote Shearer, Henry in my list, because for me Thierry Henry was the most just unbelievable, probably. I think between him and Luis Suarez is the most individually talented footballers ever to play in the Premier League. Oh, sorry, him and Ronaldo. I always forget Ronaldo for some reason. I always forget Cristiano Ronaldo playing for Man United. Weird. Maybe because he was always crap against Liverpool. But no, I think actually those three. So like, yeah, so it's the names that you just instantly associate with the league. So Henry, Rooney, Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah, after the fashion. Of course, David Beckham, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, Paul Scholes. I actually wrote a couple down just to make sure I don't get absolutely nailed in the comments. My list was Shearer, Henry, Rooney, Giggs, Beckham, Gerrard, Schmeichel, Ian Wright, Rio Ferdinand, Jamie Carragher, and Gary Neville, who I think will probably get in because I think their reputation after football has actually enhanced their overall reputation. I don't think Gary Neville always gets into all-time Premier League 11s because people don't really remember loads of right backs, and of course he had the big run. He was at Man United. He's got the silverware. There will have been better right backs in the Premier League at the time. I always say Rob Jones, if only he hadn't been injury prone. Vieira, Tony Adams, Sol Campbell, Frank Lampard, John Terry. Again, putting aside his personality flaws. Scholes, Eric Cantona. Even I can look back now and say, yeah, there's probably a lot of these Man United players who I disliked immensely at the time, but yeah, thoroughly deserve to be in there. So the question actually following on for this, just quickly, is of the current players plying their trade who aren't eligible because you've got to have retired to be entered into the Hall of Fame, who do you think is nailed on Hall of Famer in 10, 15 years time, whatever? The ones that I've got so far are Sergio Aguero, David Silva, Virgil van Dijk, Trent Alexander-Arnold, because he's got so much time on his hands, and David De Gea. They're the ones I've got so far, but let me know some more in the comments section underneath all that. In terms of Liverpool then, I want you to name me 5 Liverpool players who you think are worthy candidates for the Premier League Hall of Fame. And it's tricky because, and this is, it's hard to say this, but this current Liverpool side are so good that what it's done is it's tainted my perception of every other Liverpool team in the Premier League. Every time the Premier League years is on now, I used to go, oh, the Premier League years, and now I just go, oh, God. Because at no point during the Premier League have Liverpool ever been as good as they are now. We've had European campaigns that have ended really well, but they're not covered by Premier League years. What you've got is the 3 best seasons in Premier League history for Liverpool. 4. We finished 2nd. And it's largely heartbreaking. And along those ways, we haven't had a team that was anywhere near as good as the team that finished 2nd last season. So for me, without a doubt, the obvious one is Steven Gerrard. 100%. He could well be in that first batch, to be perfectly honest, because he was just that good. I think he's the most. I think there's a small clutch in it, down to personal opinion to some extent, like the likes of Vieira, Roy Keane, etc. I think he's the best midfielder ever to play in the Premier League. So I think he walks it. Past that, then it gets a little bit tricky. I mentioned before, I think Carragher will end up in there sooner rather than later because of his global standing. Was he a better centre-half than Rio Ferdinand? No, you know, when you list like the Jaap Stams and you list the Tony Adamses and all that, you're splitting hairs largely, but I think Carragher probably is slightly, maybe slightly below them. Ultimately, you know, didn't win the Premier League as well. But I think Carragher is a shout for a Liverpool one, certainly. And then for me, Robbie Fowler, I think Robbie Fowler should go in there, but I don't think there'll be any pressing clamour from the general footballing community to get Fowler in there, which is a mad shame. And then you start to struggle because there's players that I thought were amazing at the time who just pale so massively in comparison to this current Liverpool side, but also by proxy because I now know what a genuinely world-class side looks like. I'm watching the best in the world in their positions for a number of players playing every week. I can see why so many Man United fans thought we were massively deluded at times for bigging up players. Like I thought John Arisa was absolutely exceptional, absolutely out of this world, unreal. You know, you had your deep man of hands, your Sammy Hippiers. Sammy Hippier probably deserves to get in. I'm not sure that he will. It led me to the one that probably will. The Liverpool player who's likely to get in after Steven Gerrard is going to be Michael Owen. Fernando Torres didn't do enough after, you know, it wasn't Liverpool long enough. Suarez wasn't at Liverpool long enough, wasn't in the Premier League long enough, and Torres was crap when he left Liverpool. So I think that will take the chance. But Michael Owen, because he was an English icon and because he won the Ballon d'Or at the time as well, I think Michael Owen's going to end up in this. And I'm not sure if I'm happy about that, if I'm perfectly honest. But it is a slim pickings. I think that one of those things about it is that's why we start to compare this Liverpool side to teams from the 80s all of a sudden, because it's so much better than anyone we've had, or you compare it to the best Manchester United sides. And that is a shame, but it bodes very well for the future, if nothing else, because I think you look at it right now, there's a chance in 10, 15 years time, probably more, 20 years time, I think the likes of Alisson, I think the likes of Van Dijk, if they stick around for a couple more seasons, Salah and Mane could be in there, Trent Alexander-Arnold, if he continues on this path, going to be in there. Don't be shocked if Jordan Henderson's name gets mentioned, if he starts lifting a little bit more silverware in the next season or two. But yeah, it's a really interesting one. I think this is brilliant. It's just a fantastic discussion topic because it's so subjective, but there are people who are absolutely nailed on, those genuine Premier League icons, the ones who more often than not were probably in the intro to Super Sunday. Yeah, let me know yours. So I want to know 5 Liverpool players who you think should be admitted to the Premier League Hall of Fame. I want to know who you think are the nailed-on Premier League icons who have to be, no matter what, from other football clubs as well in the comments section. Yeah, just to remind you once again, then go and join the Patreon, patreon.com/mates to get more from me. And if you want something more from me and Mr. Chris Pajak, my partner in crime, the MXP, the Mates and Pajak podcast is back in your faces and ears. The YouTube channel's there. I'll annotate to that at the end. Fantastic first podcast there with Liverpool comedian Adam Rowe. It's not an interview in the traditional sense, it's more of a sit down and just a general gab about life, the universe and everything, with some really, really funny moments in there as well. So I do recommend it. It is probably the best thing that we make, to be perfectly honest, aside from this channel, of course. But yeah, I hope to see it over there. If not, on the Patreon. If not, be back here for another video next week and blogs, etc, etc, etc. Love you guys. See you all soon. Ta-ra.